So the Kyle Farber double scores 2, and the Reds all over the Diamondbacks. That's probably a good segue to bring in a very special guest here on the show. He is Pete Rose. He is Major League Baseball's all-time hit king, 3-time World Series champion. He also now co-hosts, he hosts. Look, I just happen to be along for the ride, but he hosts the Pete Rose's Daily Picks podcast, which launched back in October of last season. Pete correctly picked the Braves to win the World Series, and we've been doing the show ever since. I'm lucky enough to get to host alongside Pete every single day. So, Pete, what's gotten into your Reds? Look at you. You're joining us, and the Reds all of a sudden are playing 500 baseball over the last month. Welcome to the show.
Well, if you want to know the truth, if you eliminate that start they had, they have one of the best records in the league the last 20, 25 games. I don't know what it was, Ben. It just took them a while to get started.
They needed you there.
You know, they got new players because they got rid of Suarez. They got rid of Castellanos. They got rid of Winkler. You know, when you take 3, 4, and 5 out of your lineup, it's hard to replace them. And they didn't have much to replace them with. And I think that's why they got off to such a miserable start. But it's a long season. I'm not going to say they're going to win because they're not. But there again, at least they're competitive now. And because you can ruin the season, the first month of the season, just like you can win a season with the first month of the season. That's just the way baseball is.
Look, Pete, all I know is you went back to Cincinnati for an event there. You got to go to a few games, and immediately they won 4 straight games. So clearly you had something to do with it. And it's also go ahead.
Don't forget who they're playing, Ben. Don't forget who they were playing.
That's a fair point. Look, the Chicago Cubs, not exactly lighting the world on fire this year. I get it. You make a fair point. Okay.
And they played good against Pittsburgh. Then they got swept by the Dodgers. They didn't play well against San Diego. Now tonight you're playing Arizona, the Diamondbacks. I don't think they're going to set the world on fire either. So, you know, that really goes into it. But you got to play who's ever on your schedule, Ben. And if they're in your town, then you got to go beat them. You know, you can't look forward to a week and a half from now. We got a weaker team coming in because it doesn't really work that way.
Well, Pete, the Angels have the Boston Red Sox in front of them tonight, and they've lost 11 in a row. I know you're on some very good teams, but I'm sure you had some very hard times as well with the long season that you talked about. First off, what is it like when you go through some kind of prolonged losing streak like the Angels are on right now, losing 11 in a row? And, like, how do you feel going to the ballpark trying to stop that type of skid?
Well, fortunately, it's now. If it's the second half of the season when you're trying to get in the pennant race, it kills you. You just don't want to go to the ballpark. But I think with the Angels right now, they're not pitching well. They're not hitting well. Trout's over 28 or 29. When's the last time he went over 30? I don't ever remember him going over 30. And Rendon's out of the lineup, so he's a really good player. I just don't know how good. I just don't know how good the Angels are. You know, my biggest criticism about Mike Trout over all the years is he never seemed to lead his team into the playoffs. And I know it's not one guy that does it, but there again, if your superstar can't lead you into the playoffs, nobody can. And there's no question that Mike Trout is a superstar. He's, I think, by far the best player in baseball. I guess Aaron Judge is going to try to contend with that right now with all the home runs he said. He's already over 20, 21, 22, and I don't think we're a third of the way. So maybe we're looking at a guy that's going to go over 60 home runs this year.
And looking at it right now, this is a game that'll start in about an hour. Syndergaard and the Angels about $1.20, $1.19 favorite over Michael Wacha and the Boston Red Sox. And so, Pete, you and I, we do this show every single day. So it's fascinating now. Like if I were to have told you back in 1989, 33 years later, you would be hosting your own sports betting show. Major League Baseball would have completely embraced sports betting in every single way possible. Like, what could you have possibly even thought of responding to that if I had dropped in and posed that question to you back in 1989?
Well, I certainly wouldn't have been suspended for 33 years. That's all I can tell you.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
You know, I was ahead of my time, Benny. That's the problem. You know, it was always going to boil down to dollars and cents. And baseball understands the gambling industry, and they might as well cash in on it, which they do. in a big way because these salaries are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Just like football signed that guy, the big defensive guy today for
Aaron
a big,
Donald,
huge contract. Donald, the biggest contract ever for a lineman in football. So, baseball's always had big contracts. Basketball's got big contracts now. You got several guys in basketball making over $40 million a year. Think about that, man. That's a big salary, $40 million a year to play sports. But if they're paying it, I'll get in line and take it too. You would too.
Of course.
I don't know.
No
we're getting
question.
all this money, but they're not paying these players with phony money. They got to have the money, or they wouldn't be giving it to these players.
And that's where we sit now. It's a great point you make. It's fascinating to see where we have gotten in society and now in the sports betting world. And with that all being said, Pete, it means you're now allowed. Like, you can make picks. You're allowed to do it. I know you have the Red Sox tonight, right? We talk about this Angels struggle and how you're not liking what you're seeing out of Trout and the Halos right now. So you're going back to the well, right? You got the Red Sox as a plus 109 dog, right? Is that right tonight?
Well, if you lost 11 in a row. Your first game back home is against the Red Sox. That's not really a good sign because the Red Sox are a great offense and they can score runs and they're a tremendous team. So, the Angels better wake up or they're going to be looking at a 12, 13, 14 game losing streak, which is unheard of today. Even the worst teams in baseball don't lose 11, 12 games in a row.
So, Pete, I know it's not just about baseball for you. You're also paying a lot of attention to the NHL playoffs here. Obviously, we got Colorado and Edmonton tonight. Avs up 1-0 with about 6.5 left in the first period. But what are your thoughts on tomorrow night's game between Tampa Bay and the New York Rangers?
I think Tampa Bay will win. They're back home now, and they got the monkey off their back the last game. And don't forget, they won two straight Stanley Cup championships. So they got good blood down there, and I think they'll win back home. I know they won the last game, and that was a struggle. It ended up being 3-2, but they had a struggle to win that game. So, but Tampa's a different team when they're playing at home, and I think you'll see that tomorrow night.
Look, Pete, you've been red hot picking. All I have to say, I mean, I'm hosting with you every day. You've been great on these playoff hockey picks and you're going Lightning there minus one. We're showing on our screen 175 tomorrow. NBA, look, NBA has been really, really difficult from a game-by-game basis. I know you like the Celtics pre-series, but you were on the Warriors in Game 2 and on the under. Has your opinion changed of that series now? What you have seen here through 2 games in a 1-1 series?
Well, yeah, I don't think I've changed, but I'm going to say this. Whoever wins Game 3, that's the next game. Because Golden State has shown me that they can score on the opposition. They had a great quarter in the first game. They had a great quarter last night. Whoever wins this next game, I think, will end up winning that series. We're tied right now 1-1. We're going back to Boston for a couple games where I'm sure the Celtics will play better in Boston than they do on the road. So, Golden State's got their work cut out for them. But they're a good team, no question about it. Curry looks like he might be MVP if he keeps doing what he's doing. And then you got Thompson and the rest of the group. You need those guys from Boston, them young players, to rise to the occasion and start hitting those threes like they did in Game 1 in the third quarter. Or in the fourth quarter. They were down. I think Boston was down 12 or 15. They ended up winning by 12. And it had like a 30-point turnover.
Back in Game 1,
that's tough to do. But when you're shooting those threes and you're hitting them, Ben, sky's the limit.
That is exactly right. Pete, you were amazing for coming on, being willing to do this. Again, check out the show we do together. Pete Rose's Daily Picks on Apple Podcasts. Pete, you are the man. You are the hit king as well, so that goes without saying. Thank you for the time, and we will be sure to catch up with you here down the road. Thank you so much, Pete. Appreciate it.
All right, talk to you tomorrow morning, Benny.
Oh, of course. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, we'll be back on VSiN in no time up here, Pete Rose. We've got some games to update. We're also going to talk a number of other topics because we've got some baseball starting to pick up into the late innings. That is next when we return here on Primetime Action.